Hello, Mike Carruth here, President and CEO of Targeted Individual Incorporated. I have a few thoughts I'd like to share with you today along the subject and on the topic of clones. Yes, clones. What do I mean by the word clones? Allow me to explain. Please. Thank you. One of my first jobs, my first full-time jobs, right out of high school, after I graduated from Northern Nash Senior High in Rocky Mount, North Carolina in 1992, and had a very bad experience attempting to be a door-to-door salesman of Kirby vacuum cleaners, which was an absolute nightmare. Worked many days and made zero while I watched crack smokers and coke heads sell people the shirt off their own back. Yeah. Metaphor there, for sure. Next time you talk to that gifted salesperson, just remember there's always a fuel, a substance fueling that gift of gab. I guarantee it. Seen it too many times. Zero doubt about it. And I've been that person myself too, in all fairness. Even now, yeah, I must admit, even though I'm 100% drug free, well, other than nicotine and caffeine, and an occasional puff of CBD hemp, which does help alleviate my nerves sometimes, I use a substance called Phenibut, which I have openly spoken about. It's not approved by the FDA. In fact, the FDA has it directly in its crosshairs. I'm shocked they haven't successfully eradicated it yet. But Phenibut is an interesting substance. And the way I found Phenibut was after watching the movie Limitless. I was convinced that there was a substance out there somewhere that fit that NZT, whatever the fuck that acronym was that they used in that movie. I was convinced that they're talking about something that actually exists. This is not fiction. This is them dropping a hint that you need to find this substance. And so I went on a mission. I made it my mission to try to locate this NZT substance, whatever it was. And I researched Google and other search engines. And I don't know if you know this by now, but you should, that my research skills are unmatched. If it exists, I will find it. If it doesn't exist and people pretend it exists, I will figure that out too. And both are rampant in today's society, but I digress. Back to my original point. After many months of searching and trying all kinds of nootropics and herbs and all kinds of things. I mean, this is when I had money too. I was making good money as a programmer, had plenty of money to burn. Was clean and sober for the most part, other than I smoked a lot of weed back then. To be honest, way too much weed. I thought it was harmless at the time, but looking back, nah, it wasn't harmless, but whatever. Not judging. If that's you, knock yourselves out. Knock yourself out. I mean, that's literally what you're doing, but hey, who am I to judge? But yeah, I finally, I remember exactly what it was just a very brief description of Phenibut that I stumbled upon. And the description was, after reading some other positive reviews, this is what sold me. It was like, it's love in a jar. Try it. You won't regret it. I'm almost sure those are the exact words. I definitely distinctly remember it's love in a jar. And this was a particular point in my life where I felt a deficiency of love. So those words inspired me to take the leap of faith, I guess you could say, and try Phenibut. And so I did, and instantly I was like, this is it. It wasn't at all what I expected, because it wasn't necessarily at that time what I had perceived as love, that word, what that word meant. It wasn't computing. I'm just like, yeah, okay, well, not really feeling love, but it unlocked doors of cognition, doors of perception that, and I experimented with psychedelics in my younger days. And really, to be honest and fair and be truthful, it wasn't in any kind of Terence McKenna-esque, consciousness expanding pursuit of knowledge and understanding. It was just to get high, basically. But even that, those experiences with different psychedelics, I won't say which ones because I'm still not sure what the statute of limitations is, but I experimented with just about all of them. I'll put it like that. Even stuff seasoned psychedelics aficionados have not themselves tried. I have tried it, and they opened up doors, but not necessarily the doors that I wanted to open. And at that time, my head was chock full of bad belief systems and remnants of a strict religious upbringing and all the psychological damage that did, and it did for sure, cause intense psychological damage, that religion. But by the time that I stumbled onto Phenibut, I had already begun to detangle myself from those bad belief systems. And so it was the right time. And not only did it not have a negative impact, it actually aided me in continuing to detangle those bad belief systems. Bad belief systems that I didn't even know that I had. It allowed me to gain an awareness of, and to continue to bring my belief systems down to what I call absolute zero, which is no belief, which is kind of a paradox, because it's not necessarily that I don't believe anything, I just don't commit 100% to believing anything. I can entertain, and this is something I really must credit, again, Terence McKenna for demonstrating how to do this. He demonstrated, if you listen to him speak, he could entertain any belief system. He could step into that belief system, he could analyze that belief system, he could observe it, he could provide endless commentary, intriguing commentary on each and every belief system that he entertained. Magic is one of those belief systems. And I remember listening to him talk about magic, and it was just so fascinating. And then he slips in this, it was never about believing this shit. He's like, it was never my intention to believe. It's like, I'm just like analyzing it. And, make a checklist and try out this seance or this, this curse or this magic spell. And then I don't see shit. Check the box. It says does not compute and keep moving. And that was Terrence's philosophy. He was the master of that, of being able to entertain belief systems without attaching to them, without committing to them, without believing them. And there's a real key there, a wisdom key that he provided in embodying that a way of being, that I think really, if you could pick one thing that Terrence gave to mankind that could become its salvation, it's that one little key. He demonstrated how to do that, how to entertain a belief system without attaching to it, without believing it. And it's almost like you have to believe it a little bit to step inside it and observe it and analyze it, but you don't have to commit to believing this, okay, I adopt this belief system. I am integrating this belief system into my psychology. Because that's really what you're doing. When you believe something, you are programming your mind. You are basically installing a plug-in in your mind, in your psychology. And that plug-in, it overrides a lot of rational, critical thinking. And it's a very dangerous thing, especially religion. But there's so many other belief systems that just to say religion, it falls short of explaining and describing the danger that comes with subscribing to belief systems. But there's my little spiel on Phenibut and on belief systems. And I truly believe, even though I never heard Terence McKenna mention Phenibut, he may or may not have ever tried it. I know he tried a lot of stuff that most people would never in a million billion years have the balls to try. He tried it, but I feel like after I heard him speak about ketamine, which I've never tried, to be honest, but there was a point when I was experiencing depression that I had heard some positive things about ketamine being used successfully to treat symptoms of depression. And so when I heard Terence speaking about ketamine, and he didn't have really good things to say about it, but he, as he always did, he was thorough in his analysis of it. And he, in some ways, grouped it in the same kind of, under the same umbrella as psychedelics. And after seeing that, I feel pretty confident that even if he didn't try Phenibut, if he had A, he would have liked it, and B, he would have, just like I have, classified it under the same umbrella, even though it is not a narcotic, and it does not have intoxicating effects. And so when you tell someone that, you know, someone who's used to like mushrooms or acid or peyote or whatever the hell these people are using, if they're even people now, whatever these empty vessels are using these days to create an altered mindset, it's none of that. It's not an intoxicant. It simply creates clarity, is the best way I can put it. And in that way, it's exactly like NZT and Limitless. You look, like he described it, I'm not high, I'm not low, I'm just clear. Clear as a bell. That's what Phenibut does for me. And if that is deemed to be something that should be banned and made to be illegal, I'm going to have a real problem with that. Because it was actually created by the Russians as a social anxiety medication in the 60s. That's how it came to be. And they would actually give it to their astronauts And if I'm not mistaken, I'm reading into this a little bit, but I do believe that it was to help them feel less alone while they were out there in space. And I totally get that. Because if you have feelings of loneliness, I strongly recommend that you try Phenibut. And I hesitate to recommend anything for anyone, but I used to have those feelings too, and I don't have them anymore, if you know what I mean. And I credit Phenibut for that. I absolutely do. Now back to KLones, if I can keep my voice here. Let me get a sip of coffee. And by the way, I'll share this too. I don't take Phenibut every day. I take it every other day. It basically 3 days a week is how many days I take it. And I separate. One day on, one day off. And it was after many months of testing and experimenting that I found that that was the right pattern that fits for me. And I take less than the recommended dosage, just enough. It can be abused like anything else, and if you take too much of it, you're responsible for whatever happens if you do that. And it's just like anything else. You could take sugar, take salt. You can overdo it on anything you encounter, legal, illegal, anything whatsoever. So if you're looking for something to get high with, Phenibut is not the right fit for you. But it is something that I consider a mild psychedelic, in that there are therapeutic benefits there if you're the type that you're looking to dig deeper into your own psyche. I'll just leave it at that. Back to KLones. KLones. I've noticed as I look back, now that I have crystal clear